Hello, everyone. Today we're talking about Jurassic Park. It's a fairly successful indie film franchise with a solid cult following, and it's had its fair share of lackluster entries, I'll admit that, but I am partial to the original, which is why I decided to do something unprecedented. I read a book, Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton, released in 1990. The one that started it all. This video is a review of that book. Please enjoy.
If you're unaware, the original Jurassic Park is much darker than the film. There are plenty of differences between it and the film. Some characters are cut, others combined, and most are changed. For instance, in the book, Malcolm is bald. That's how you know it's a horror story. One important takeaway I had from reading the book was that a lot of the inaccuracies that appear in the movie come from the book. And make no mistake, the book is riddled with inaccuracies. I even went back and had to edit in a few corrections I forgot. It's interesting because the author clearly did his research. He goes on long tangents about Robert Bakker and John Ostrom in order to justify some of the plot points. And then on the next stage, boom! Velociraptors have snake tongues. It creates a whiplash effect. There's one point where the book says that the T-Rex chewed its food. That is easy to miss, but it stuck out like a piece of shell and scrambled eggs to me. Chewing is a mammalian trait, and it requires multiple types of teeth in order to accomplish. That's something T-Rex wouldn't have. Then a couple chapters later, one of the stegosauruses gets sick from poison berries, and Dr. Grant figures out that the animals have been eating them by accident when they swallowed up their gizzard stones. Grant tells us that dinosaurs need these gastroliths in order to grind up their food so it can be properly digested, because they don't chew their food. Where was this earlier? The author gives a detailed scientific explanation that explains why previous details in the story are wrong. The most infamous example is the Velociraptors, which aren't really Velociraptors. Velociraptor mongoliensis, the animal which is supposedly in this book, was actually a turkey-sized small dromaeosaur. Dromaeosaurs were some of the closest relatives of birds among dinosaurs, and they should be much more bird-like than what is presented in the books. The book's version of Velociraptors is based on Deinonychus. The story behind the name is a little interesting. Crichton researched for his book using an old novel which mistakenly placed Deinonychus in the Velociraptor genus, and by the time he was informed of the error he made, he had already written a significant portion of the book. Faced with this information, he said Velociraptor sounded more theatrical. Comparing the names Deinonychus and Velociraptor, it doesn't seem obvious that would be the case. However, when you read the prologue of the book, you'll find that Crichton probably wanted to preserve the poetry of the word raptor, which means kidnapper in Spanish and bird of prey in English. There's also a scene in which it is revealed that baby raptors can change color like a chameleon. This only applies to the ones that are naturally bred, by the way. Obviously, real raptors couldn't do that, and it's only mentioned in one chapter near the end of the book and never comes up again, so it's just really out of place. I looked up if it appears in the sequel. It doesn't. Instead, the Carnotaurus is a color-changing animal, and their ability is more similar to a cuttlefish. Then there's the frog thing. Frogs are not natural hermaphrodites. Using frog DNA to fill the gaps would not create transgender dinosaurs. It would result in strange amphibious creatures with tadpole life stages. T-Rex had excellent vision, as is normal for apex predators. For some reason, Crichton decided that all the dinosaurs would not be able to see things that weren't moving. The scene of the book where Grant asserts this idea is nonsense. Even if T-Rex couldn't see Grant, it would be able to smell him. The gigantic nostrils that T-Rex had were not for nothing. This animal would have the smelling ability of a bloodhound. The single biggest mistake that the film makes is that the DNA inside of a mosquito's abdomen would be better preserved than that of more well-known bone fossils. We all know DNA degrades over time. In a mosquito, this degradation would not be slowed. It would instead be hastened by the acidic chemicals that aid in digestion. A mosquito's gut is the last place you would look if you were trying to find intact DNA. It has one aspect that does put it a level above many of its contemporaries. This movie popularized the idea of dinosaurs being energetic, fast-moving, active creatures. Before the film, the public's conception of dinosaurs was that they were slow, lumbering, dull creatures. Thanks to this film, that perception changed, and the movie still influences depictions of dinosaurs to this day, for better or for worse. If you are familiar with the movie, you will recognize most of the characters. John Hammond, Alan Grant, Ellie Sattler, Ian Malcolm, etc. are all here. There are also several unfamiliar characters like Ed Regis and Dr. Harding. The actions of the park's operators are a whole lot more dubious in the book. Hammond built the park on a secluded Costa Rican island where he could pursue his goals in secret away from the prying eyes of corporate competitors and government regulators. He has lied to his investors using a hormonally stunted elephant that he claims is a genetically altered animal. His poor safety standards have already resulted in the deaths of 3 local construction workers. In order to protect the secrets of the park, he has lied about the cause of the men's deaths. These men all died due to Velociraptor attacks. But if you asked Hammond, he would say they died in a construction accident. Hammond hasn't even thought to put a medical staff on standby on his isolated island after these incidents. One of those men, who had his treatment not been delayed, may have survived. Later, this same oversight nearly causes the death of Ian Malcolm, who only survives due to a retcon in the sequel. It should be noted that Hammond has a world-class vet on standby, led by Dr. Harding. Ian Malcolm's musings on chaos theory are much more extended and in-depth in the book. He is Hammond's nemesis, and he forms the core of the story's themes. Life finds a way is the most famous line of the book, and it's delivered by him. He predicts the failure of the park before Hammond even breaks ground, and he is soon proven right. In order to avoid scrutiny for his sketchy project, Hammond invites a team of consultants onto the island in order to prove it's up to standard. This team consists of a paleontologist, Alan Grant and Ellie Sattler, Hammond's lawyer, Donald Gennaro, and the mathematician, Ian Malcolm. He also invites his grandchildren, Tommy and Lex, whose parents are in the middle of a nasty divorce. They are given a tour guide in the form of Ed Regis, the park's PR manager. Dennis Nedry, the park's head programmer, decides to steal embryos as part of a corporate espionage scheme. While he does this, he shuts off the park's power, which turns off all the phone lines and electrified fences. This allows the dinosaur to escape and traps everyone in the park. Shortly after the fences are turned off, the T-Rexes escape. Ed Regis pees himself and flees in terror, leaving the kids alone in one of the cars that tours the park. The big T-Rex attacks the car, severely injuring Ian Malcolm. Dr. Grant and the kids find each other after the commotion. They plan to stay at the scene until help arrives, but end up fleeing when they see Ed Regis fall into dire straits. And by dire straits, well, let's just say he gets eaten alive by the juvenile T-Rex. Dr. Grant and the kids navigate the park in order to get back to the safety of the lodge. Malcolm gets rescued by Muldoon, the park's animal handler, and Gennaro. Gennaro vows to shut down the park after he sees Ed's dismembered leg. Muldoon leads Gennaro as they try to get the park somewhat under control. Muldoon acts as the voice of reason and manages to even capture the big Rex with his skills. Hammond and his employees, along with Sattler, try to fix the power in order to restore some semblance of order. John Arnold, who's the chief engineer of the park, but not a programmer, has to figure out what Nedry's sabotage of the computer system entailed. Arnold restores the power, the auxiliary power, but they still have to restore the main power source manually, and the generator is located far from the command center, which risks them being attacked by loose velociraptors. All of this is capped off by a ticking clock in the form of a boat traveling to the mainland, with a few velociraptors on it that could produce once they reach the shore.
So, is Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton good? Yeah, it's good. What did you expect? It's Jurassic Park. Of course it's good. The Velociraptors may not really be Velociraptors. The T-Rex may not be able to smell 2 feet in front of its face. But everything else, characters, plot, setting, theme, fantastic. I recommend it. But the real question everyone is asking is the book better than the movie? They're about the same level of quality. The book's pretty good in its own way. The movie's pretty good in a different way. It's, if you like horror, you should read the book. If you like action adventure, you should read the movie. It's really just a preference thing. I like the movie more because I'm not much of a horror guy. But the book is really good. Michael Crichton himself liked the movie more. That goes to show how similar these are in quality.